Hello folks, how's it going? So welcome to my review of One Piece chapter 1066, and oh boy did Oda hit a home run with this chapter. I mentioned this a couple of chapters ago, a couple of reviews ago, but when Vegapunk was introduced, I said that's Oda pretty much pointing out, hey, we're about to enter the final saga, we're nearing the end game. But this chapter, I can honestly say, for the first time since Wano, it actually hit that feeling like, yeah, we're on the final stretch. You can feel it. Not only was this chapter centered around nicorobin, but also Oda, the stars are starting to align now with certain things that we've been wondering for quite a while now. So I'll get into that. Cover story, easily, very simple. The Vince Smokes arriving at the castle, German 66 castle. I assume to meet up with Judge. Oda just needs to wrap this up. I mean, everything else except Pudding going with them was predictable. I said Pudding was going to go with them. I was wrong because obviously Blackbeard altered that plan and obviously kidnapped Pudding, which obviously is going to tie up with Sanji anyway. So I'm not too mad about that, but there could be a chance for Pudding and Reiju to have that moment regardless. It's funny, the caption of the cover story said emotionless, but everything else about this chapter was, I mean, it was completely emotional. So we start this chapter off with obviously where we left off, with obviously the huge kingdom being revealed to be in the 900 years in the past, with advanced technology. We get more insight into that. And obviously it's Robin that starts off with the question. But in the world of archaeologists, there's only once a man who risked his life to find out about that kingdom. And I'm guessing it's because what we find out later in this chapter is Professor Clover, right? And then Robin asks, that machine was produced during the 4th century, and Vegapunk kind of blows that off. It's like, how much do you know about that? But then we find out that kingdom got erased a similar way that Lucia Kingdom recently got erased, because there was a historic battle that took place involving that ancient kingdom with advanced technology against the 20 kingdoms. Obviously the 20 kingdoms come up on top and founded the world government. So that's pretty cool, we found that out. To make sure the kingdom's ideology wasn't matched by anybody else, they decided to erase that kingdom from history. They erased it from the history books, so I'm guessing they erased the entire island. That is like similar to what happened with the Lucia Kingdom, only I think that Sabo pretty much survived. As Sanji asked, wait a minute, then the people who knew about that is, yeah, they've been obliterated, and then Vegapunk switches his focus to nicorobin. If Ohara was erased because of this theory, it means the government had acknowledged that the theory about is the truth. And Robin I like Robin bouncing back here. It's like, who the hell do you think you are talking about us like that? Not knowing not knowing what the real situation was, because as we find out, Vegapunk only saw the aftermath. nicorobin literally went through hell and experienced that. So Robin's response is totally justified here. So do you think the government will hear it from a powerful person? And then Vegapunk kind of responds like, I'm in the same boat as you, because if I talk about it, I'm going to be killed. But then Robin kind of asks, do you know anything about that kingdom? Every book that Ohara gathered around the world has been, and it kind of cuts away again with Vegapunk kind of mentioned the world of Ohara still lives. Obviously referring to nicorobin. I mean, it's definitely set for Robin in my opinion. The title of the chapter is Will of Ohara. We get some interesting tidbits of information here. So the day that the world was in uproar, Scholar Island, Ohara, was famous worldwide. And then this is where Robin's starting to kick in with the emotion. There's two instances where I'll get into that really struck a chord when it comes to the emotion. I mean, this is where Vegapunk pretty much revealed that he was an old acquaintance of the scholar, Professor Clover. And then Robin's like, yo, you were Professor Clover's friend? And then we find out more about Clover than I thought we would. So he's a part of the Clover Pirates. Go figure. And he'd been captured 10 times by the Navy. Somehow he's escaped 10 times, but he's very interested in the void century. He gathered every book around the world, but he still became the famous #1 archaeologist in the world. And then we find out Vegapunk, and we kind of see a silhouette of his real body coming to Ohara after being obliterated. We find out there's giants on Ohara. Seeing that island on fire was because of the Buster Call. The scholars were trying to stop it. He died protecting the remaining fortunes for the future. Obviously setting up for the new generation. So the clueless soldiers saw it, but they didn't value realise its value. It was a great victory for Ohara. So the government don't know about it. That's key. This is where I talked about with the emotion kicking in. This is the first instance when Robin starts to tear up because she's thinking about her mother, and obviously Sol as well. So then you see the rest of the Straw Hats like complaining to Vegapunk like, "Yo, you made our Robin cry." So Robin asked Ohara to try to expose that kingdom just as you predicted. Then it was the truth. Vegapunk kind of asked, "What do you know about the books in the lake?" Because apparently Vegapunk wanted to bring him to Punk Hazard, but fell upon deaf ears with the higher up. So then we get more information about, and this may be the most important part of this flashback sequence. Goes to the aftermath. He sees the giants from Elbaf. Obviously they collected the books. Out of nowhere, in comes Monkey D. Dragon, who meets up with Vegapunk. So this kind of ties back to what Vegapunk was saying 2 chapters ago when he said he was about to talk about Monkey D. Dragon, but that's where the chapter ended. We actually get the reveal of Vegapunk's actual body on top of Monkey D. Dragon. And by the way, did you notice that Dragon wasn't wearing his tattoo or markings on his face? He got pissed off with what happened with Ohara. So that's interesting. And I'm going to get back into that in a minute because I think this might tie into a theory that a lot of people have been having. So we see that he's mentioning that he's already built an army to go against the world government. Obviously Ivankov and Elbaf Kuma. Again, that's another nod to Joribani because Joribani did mention that Kuma was with the Revolutionary Army. And this might be the biggest tidbit of information that we've got when it comes to dragons. As an acquaintance of Professor Clover, so that's interesting because we never knew that. Apparently Robin didn't know that either. So that's why Dragon got pissed. I don't know if this is his entire motivation for because he's already put an army together because he mentioned Ivankov and Kuma. So it's already been taking place. So he says Clover's death will not go in vain. This is like where Robin said, "I didn't know Dragon was Professor Clover's acquaintance." And this is probably the biggest reveal as well. We got a lot of them in this chapter, but it's like the books of Ohara didn't fall into the government's hands because I was very interested in them. I secretly went to Elbaf. They let me read all the documents, so the giants that gathered the books took them to Elbaf. And we found out leader was Sol, who's apparently still alive. At least that's what I took from this chapter. In other words, I read all about Ohara and the secrets of the world. It's all in the head. And Robin puts 2 and 2 together, and the name of that giant's captain is Sol, right? This is where the reveal kicks in. It's like, right now, he's hiding. No one will disclose his whereabouts. Because the last time you saw Sol, he was frozen solid. This is the second instance where the emotion of Robin kicks in. For me, it hit home because instead of bursting into tears and screaming, she keeps it in and she's still tearing up. That hit a chord because it's like she wants to let it out, but she's like, "Thank you, Dr. Vegapunk. Please don't let Ohara's battle go in vain." So there you go. And apparently they're still having problems with the boots because Vegapunk's still in that grey area when it comes to the Straw Hats, which is pretty cool. It's going to change once he's targeted. It's going to change anyway, especially with now the real Vegapunk meeting up with Luffy, which is like, we go to the ending portion of this chapter where we see the giant mecha that's on the ground. Now I'm wondering if that mecha is from Elbaf. It doesn't matter because it explodes anyway. It's like Chopper and Luffy is like, "Yo," Chopper's like, "Yo, move, robot," and Luffy's like, it probably has a name, so maybe we need to call it the nickname like Robonosuke, because Luffy makes a comment about the real Vegapunk looking like Kinemon. Yeah, and Bonnie's just like, "Yo, what are you children on here?" It's like, that won't make it move. But instead, what it ends up doing is, I don't know if that's because of Luffy saying that, but it ends up exploding, so we didn't find out anything about it, other than it's from 900 years ago in the past. Explodes, and out of nowhere, wouldn't you know, out comes the real Dr. Vegapunk. Now, apparently, was he under that mecha the entire time? Because he looked squished. But then he says, "Someone please help. While I was warping, the space got distorted." Again, the emphasis on time travel. Then we get the reveal of the real Vegapunk that met up with Dragon. What's interesting about this is like Vegapunk recognizes Bonnie, says, "Oh, you've grown up." And then immediately says to Luffy, "Hey, you are Monkey D. Dragon's son, aren't you? I knew you would come here." I'm going to get into that because that's going to fly over a lot of people's heads. I know it. So then they alter the boots so they can fly up or skywalk. So that's pretty cool. to end the chapter, and we get the reveal of the real Vegapunk. If you notice the caption, I don't know if this is legit or not, but it says SSG, so what the hell is Vegapunk? But that's how the chapter ends. So this chapter was great. It was phenomenal because this chapter does two things. Number one, this sets Robin to have more incentive than any other Straw Hat to go to Elbaf, because if Soul is there alive, there's going to be a reunion. So you're not going to cut that out. That's number one. Number two, before Enos Lobby, we didn't know next to nothing about Robin. Not the Straw Hats, not us as the viewers. But as soon as that arc started, we learned more and more about Robin, about her backstory, where she came from, everything about Nico Olivier, Professor Clover. Now we got more information about him in this chapter. The fact that he was not only connected to Vegapunk, but also Monkey D. Dragon. And obviously CP9 were part of that arc. Vegapunk just spilled the beans about a few things about Ohara to Robin, and about having a connection with Elbaf. So we didn't know about that. I find it very ironic that we know who's coming into town with CP0. To me, this clarifies. At first I thought that, this fight could go one of two ways, because Zoro and Brook right now on the ship, so they could encounter Cypher Pole. Or to me, I wasn't too sure at first. Now I'm set. I agree. I think Robin should be the one to go up against Rob Lucci. Now the only thing I don't know is we only saw Kaku and Stussy with Rob Lucci alongside with Lunarian Pacifista Kuma and SSG. So if they're coming in, we don't know how many members of CP0 are coming in. There may be Caulifla, Blueno, I don't know. If that's the case, then I don't care. I think Robin should be the one to fight Rob Lucci, and Nami can fight Stussy for all I care. But Robin needs to be the centerpiece of that fight, and I hope she doesn't get restricted. Like I said, the stars are aligned, especially with Vegapunk having a connection with Professor Clover. You think Robin's going to sit by and let CP0 kill him? No. That's not happening. I don't know if Luffy's going to get involved in this fight. I don't think he's needed to work against Rob Lucci. And the other thing this does, and this, like I said, this sets up Robin tremendously to go to Elbaf. This chapter may have given Robin more incentive than any other Straw Hat, maybe even Usopp, to go to Elbaf because of what was revealed. Not only were the books of Ohara there, Soul is on Elbaf. So I was expecting Robin to burst out screaming into tears when she found that out, but she kept it in. Like I said, that was a powerful moment. But that moment's coming with a reunion on Elbaf. I guarantee you, Elbaf is being hyped up this much. I got a feeling that Elbaf may be the next major arc to go down in One Piece. Whatever Barney reveals about the Reverie post this arc, post the Vegapunk arc, Elbaf's going to be the next major arc. I think Oda just pretty much guaranteed that. I don't expect it to be the length of Wano, because you also have the final arc as well in Laughdale. Given everything that's gone down, you can't introduce a new island with the Royal Poneglyph being on there, with Elbaf being hyped up this much, with as much historical significance as we got in this chapter. With it pretty much writes itself with Robin and Usopp wanting to go to Elbaf. This arc may focus on Frankie, but Elbaf is going to focus on Usopp and Nico Robin, so that's great. And Otis pretty much says, I don't know if this is going to happen, but he said his aim is to end the series within the next 3 years. So it doesn't make sense for CP0 to show up after this chapter, after Robin's gotten that hype, just to be captured again, to extend the series even that much. And even if a Straw Hat is captured, how long are they going to be captured for? With Oda saying that his aim is to end the series within 3 years. Don't know if that's going to happen, but obviously if you're Oda, you do everything you could not to prolong that. So yeah, it doesn't make sense. The stars are aligned for Robin to do something, hopefully. Also Jory Barney as well, because like I mentioned, the mention of Kuma, even though it's a small tidbit of information, it's a small detail, Robin's not the only one who's getting a character focused on. It's Barney as well as Bartholomew Kuma, and find out his backstory. That's all going to tie up together. Like I said, that's incredible from Oda's behalf. I'm wondering how long did he have this vision of Ohara mapped out? How long was it foreshadowed? Because if he did this knowing before the time skip, or even just after the time skip, that's insane. Because, and this is the biggest part of this, because we find out, because Vegapunk says to Luffy, hey, you're Vegapunk's son, I knew you'd come here. Okay, how the hell did Vegapunk know, number one, that Dragon had a son, and number two, that Luffy would show up? Because when we see a dragon, like I said, he doesn't have the tattoo, he doesn't have the markings yet, so I guess the Revolutionary Army hasn't been completed, but he's recruited. So, and it took place 22 years ago. In the story, Luffy's 19 or 20, or how you want to go about it. So Luffy was not born back then. So unless Dragon mentions something off screen like, hey, I have an unborn son on the way, then there's no way Vegapunk would know about that. How did he know about Luffy would show up? Monkey D. Dragon went to Elbaf in the first place, and he got pissed off after seeing the aftermath. Now, there's a theory going out there that, and the other thing too, like I said, this may explain some things about the time skip, is Monkey D. Dragon, every time Luffy's been brought up by our koala, we saw it after Dressrosa, his first priority was, how's Robin doing? How's Robin doing? Like, that's all he's been talking about. He's shown more interest in Robin than he has in his own son. So, and maybe maybe this chapter explained that, but we don't know the connection. So we know he was on Elbaf. There's a theory going on around that Nico Olivier was married to Dragon, and Dragon was the father of Robin. That's the theory going out there. This chapter, I'm going to say, I mean, it's still not clarified, it's still a theory. That theory is more possible than ever before after this chapter. And it may explain why Dragon's been so interested in Robin, if in fact that's the case. And if that's the case, boy, does that tie up things with Luffy and Robin. Holy shit. Like I said, Oda hit a home run with this chapter. For me personally, this was easily the best chapter of the entire year. Bar none, not even close. Not only was this chapter focused on Robin, not only does it set up Robin to do something epic pretty soon, it wasn't just this chapter as well. Remember back, I mentioned this when Vegapunk Lilf thought about attacking the Straw Hats. Who was the Straw Hats that Oda decided to hype up as being a threat? nicorobin and Zoro. I said that wasn't done by accident. That was done by design, and now this arc has turned and focused on having huge implications when it comes to the Void Century. Obviously, the secrets to that ancient kingdom that got erased, so we think, is on Elbaf. That's Robin's goal, to find that out on Elbaf. So, that, like I said, this also could tie in with Robin actually doing something epic against CP0, maybe against Rob Lucci. That'd be phenomenal. Like I said, Oda showcasing Robin, giving her more emotion than we've ever seen post-time skip, because it's one thing to have Robin cry out, I want to live, but to have that emotion and ball it up, and when you know there's going to be feels once she reunites with Sol. That hits home just as much as it did it on Enies Lobby, and we found out more about Ohara than we ever thought possible, and Professor Clover. So, like, just getting Robin to showcase more emotion, rather than just dark jokes, which is, rather than watching Robin look good and be a badass, this is a plus to give her extra dimensions to her character that she needs going into the final saga. So I don't know if it's going to lead up to another power-up. I hope so. I hope it leads into something epic. I don't know what this means for the connection with Dragon and Ohara. Maybe it's possible that I don't see this chapter, Oda giving us this chapter just to have Robin captured again by CP0. No, it's not going to happen. Like I said, unless the raw poneglyph is on Marajose. That's the only way I see it. Other than that, no. Also, we may find out a lot more about Luffy pretty soon. And the thing to note is, we got the Robin hat coming in. Not only do we get this chapter, we're rapidly approaching the Nico Robin versus Black Maria fight in the anime and Wano, aka the best 1v1. The coolest thing about this is going to be see Nico Robin's voice actress in this when this chapter gets animated. That's going to be phenomenal. This chapter was amazing. Tell me your thoughts in the comments below. That's going to do it for you guys. Thanks so much for watching. Like the review if you do, a thumbs up. I appreciate that. Subscribe to for more One Piece. Catch you guys later. Thanks, guys. Bye.